Hey guys, it is me, Laura. I'm sorry about the look. I'm sick today. I'm feeling better this evening though, so that is good. But a sick day has meant I have had a lot of time sitting around on the couch, and so I have taken full advantage of that to do some lesson planning. And if you saw my previous video, you saw that I had ordered some of the Beautiful Feet curriculum to use for my history, and my thinking was that it would be just a very little bit which I could use as a spine and kind of my basic to get through, and then I could, whenever I'm able to plan, build from that. And I got the teacher's guide in the mail, and I will put a link to the review here. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, but it wasn't exactly what I was hoping for. It was actually even more bare than what I was really hoping for, and I feel like it's a really good literature guide and literature program, but not as deep into history as what I was hoping for. But I don't feel like it's a waste of money. I am still using it, and so I thought I would show you guys what I am doing for history. And what I've done is I've taken some things that I already have and like, and I know I've mentioned to you guys before that I really like Mystery of History. I feel like the reading, my son is 6, and so just reading it straight to him, it's too dry, a little too much, but I like it for me, and I do like some of the activities that she recommends doing with the different times in history, and I like the way that it works. I went through the Beautiful Feet timeline and all the spine books that they have, and I went through the table of contents on the Mystery of History website and looked at the main points of history that she brought out in American history throughout history, and thought about other things that Samuel's particularly interested in, and I came up with a basic outline, and let me actually show you what I did. So to start with, I made these chicken scratches of an outline of things that I wanted to be sure to cover in history. I got a lot of them from, I started basically with the Beautiful Feet stuff and then plugged stuff in from Mystery of History, and then there were a few other things that my son is interested in, and a couple things I didn't feel like there was really enough Native American history woven in all of this, so I added some of that in there and kind of, I don't know, you can't really read all this, that's okay, and kind of came up with this. And then I started looking through each one, and basically what I've decided that is my goal with this is I want to have at least one spine book for each chunk of a section, and then have any books that I want to make sure I include but that are not spine, so they're not necessarily books that we have to do. Here, I'll show you here. Can you see it? Yes. Okay, so this is my spreadsheet, and so I've got it separated into rows for the different time periods. And then what I've got here is I wanted at least one spine book for the time period, and I used a lot of the Beautiful Feet spines. And then I wanted to make sure that there were some where I included other resources. So it could be books, could be videos, could be audio, could be anything here. Other resources that I want to have available or that I might want to use, but there is what will hold it together. So we're not going to move on to the next unit, if you want to call these little mini units, until we finish the spine. And all the spines in here, but we might stay longer even after. But this is kind of what we're going to be really jumping off with. And so then I've put the other resources here, and then here I have my activities and ideas, and over here materials that I don't have that I've needed. Now I haven't completed every single unit because that would be a tremendous amount of work, and I don't have all the resources that I need to do that. But what I have done is I've completed the first 3 units except for this one, the first Native Americans, because for some of the activities I have a book on hold. I put it on hold today, and they say it's waiting there for me at the library with some Native American activities that I really want to do. And so my thought is that in this planning it's kind of basic, and then I've been already building lists of books that I want to check out from the library on my library's website. And we'll check out more books and really kind of go with it. So the idea is that these studies will be based off of this book. We'll start with that book as kind of whatever book is there as a jumping off point, and then we'll have all of these other things available and just ready to go. And so I can check them off when we're done, and we don't have to finish everything. We can do everything, but it just kind of, and then we can even create more as we read. We might come up with ideas or want to do things, but it just kind of is there to give me stuff so that if I am just kind of, if it's a day like today and I'm sick, I can just pull it out and there's something ready and it's easy and I don't have to worry about it or think about it. So that's kind of what I did, but I don't want to buy a ton of resources total, especially not for each one. So I am getting the 3 units ready at a time, making sure I have everything on hand for that. And as we're nearing the end of Christopher Columbus, I will finish off the next 3 and make sure I have all the materials on hand for that, and so on and so forth. So what I did with each of these units is I went through the Beautiful Feet books teacher's guide and I read the whole thing, and a lot of it is just discussion questions, which I kind of like discussion questions to be a little bit more organic, so I'm not using those, but there were some great websites in there and some links and a few ideas that I used, and so I plugged all those things that I wanted into the spreadsheet. And then I went through Mystery of History. I think they're starting to separate out the actual like text reading part and then the activities and quizzes and everything part into 2 books. I don't know if they're doing that with all of them, but they did it with this one, which turned out to be a blessing because I was able just to buy for volume 3 just the activity part because that's all that I want right now anyway. So I went through that and pulled the activities that went with the stuff. I went all the way through actually volume 3 and went ahead and got all of those activities, and so I've noted where I start needing volume 4, and at that point I can go ahead and get the volume 4 one. There's a resource that I found on Rainbow Resources that I love. It's got 3D maps of basically all the time periods that we're discussing. So you build the maps and then you can move things around and do them with them, and so I went through those maps in that book and put all those maps into my spreadsheet where they go. I found Drive Through History, which we're going to be using, so I also put that in where it goes in there. And we have so many Your Story Hours. I went through the whole Your Story Hour, all their history stuff online, and I plugged them. Sorry, I had an alarm on my phone. So there's just a couple Your Story Hours that we don't have later on. I'm not going to worry about it, but we already have most of those, so I just plugged those stories in. My son loves those, so we will be using them, and it'll be a great way for him to take some of those stories that he's heard and really plug them into where they go in history and what they connect to, so that'll be good. I did look for library books, and I started building those checkout lists, books that I want to check out. I went on Rainbow Resources for each of the time periods to try and see what kind of resources they had and ideas they have. And I really love the YWAM books I've shared with you guys before. The Heroes for Young Readers. They also have a Heroes of History for Young Readers and Hero of History just regular. And they don't have very many, but they do have 4 books that were very pertinent to what we're doing. They only have 5 total, so I plugged those in where they went. And Pepper and Pine, I will link her channel below. She has amazing resources, and she's just recently started showing some of her stuff that she's getting it ready to do for her American History unit. So I checked her list and looked over there. And I only did this part with the first 3 units, but basically I want to make sure that each unit or mini unit or whatever you want to call it has a video, an activity, and a play thing. So something that can help them to get and do some imaginative play with the story apart from everything. So this could be like for Vikings, we're making a Viking helmet and we're making a Viking flag and we're gonna go up on the bed and pretend like it's a Viking ship. So just things like that. And so that's kind of what I want in each one. So that's basically how I'm putting these unit studies together, and I don't know if it would be helpful for you guys once I'm all done and once we've kind of done some of it. I'm happy to share my spreadsheet with you. I don't know how helpful it will be because it's based on the materials that we have available to us and the things that mostly, there's a few things that we're purchasing, but I'm trying really hard to not purchase a lot for each unit and only purchase things that can really go throughout all of the units and last longer, because I think that would be better. But that's kind of what I've decided to do, and I'm really happy with it. So basically what it is it's a blend of Beautiful Feet curriculum with Mystery of History, and I'm using a lot of resources from Your Story Hour and the Drive Through History, the American History one, and other spine books that I found in there. If Beautiful Feet didn't have one, I found some that I like, and doing 3D maps. And for each mini unit, we will be doing a timeline, just a basic timeline, so that Samuel can just really see how things fit together. And so what we'll do is we'll make a copy of the cover of our spine book and shrink it down, and then just put those in order on the wall. So, and if you're not familiar with the KWL chart, it's K stands for what I already know, W stands for what I want to know, and L stands for what I learned. So when you start learning about something, you sit down, you talk about what you know about it, you find out what you want to learn about it, and then as you go, or at the end, however you decide to do it, you talk about and write out what you've learned. So we'll be doing that with each of them, and that's pretty much it. So I don't know if this is helpful for you, but that's kind of how I'm making my own early American history. And I say early American history, this is going all the way through through the civil rights movement. That's where I'm kind of cutting it off. And I'm doing the civil rights movement because that's something that Samuel's very interested in. But just to give you a little rundown, I'll show you real quick what the main categories are, and these are subject to change because I'm still kind of in edit mode, but I'll show you. And yeah, let me know if you want me to share this with you guys at some point, and let me know if this video has been helpful at all. This is basically just kind of how I did my planning today. So let me turn around and show you, and then I won't turn it back around on me, so I'll say bye, and then I'll show you. Okay, so I wish we had started with Native Americans first because they were here first. No question. But we've already started on Vikings, and so we're doing Vikings first, and then we're going to talk about how the Vikings had found the Native Americans, so they were here first. So we're going to talk about Native Americans then. And I found an awesome documentary about Native Americans before Christopher Columbus, which is a great way to bridge from Native Americans to Christopher Columbus, and I think it's going to be really good. So then we're going to talk about Christopher Columbus, and then we're going to talk about Jamestown with Pocahontas and John Smith and all of that, and then the Mayflower and Pilgrims and Squanto and Thanksgiving. And then we're going to talk about William Penn and the founding of Pennsylvania. And then we're kind of going into like this colonial era, and so it's kind of a mishmash. I had it all separated out into different sections, but I have put it all together. So it's going to be colonial America, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and in there we're also going to throw in the story of Mary Jemison. This is a story that Samuel is familiar with from your story hour, and I think it's a great way to discuss more about Native American culture. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to do the American Revolution and all of that kind of stuff. I'm clumping together the American Revolution, Declaration of Independence, Valley Forge, there's a book about that here, that's why I have it separate, and the Constitutional Conventions. And I have those books there, and I need to get a lot more. Like I haven't, you can see there's big blanks here where I'm just not there yet with my planning. And then we're going to do a whole thing on George Washington. That audio, oh, okay, yeah, here it is. It kind of got, this is all the same thing. It just looks, there's a page break. So there's a ton of your story hour episodes there. These are some books. There's tons more resources to pull together for George Washington. And we're going to do Daniel Boone, and he's just separate right now because I'm not quite sure where to put him. I might move him down here. Not sure yet, but we'll talk about Daniel Boone, and then the Louisiana Purchase and the Lewis and Clark Expedition in Sacagawea. Samuel's familiar with Sacagawea or Sacagawea, however you say it. I'm not sure what's right. And when I was in 7th and 8th grade, I did a bunch, I think I was in 7th grade, I did a bunch of research projects actually on Lewis and Clark and Sacagawea and the Shoshone Indians. So that's very exciting to me to be able to share with him. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the War of 1812 with a focus on the Star-Spangled Banner and where all of that came from. And then I put Johnny Appleseed in there. Again, this is someone he's familiar with, someone he knows, and I want him to be able to plug that into where it goes in history and to have some more hooks on it. And then we're going to do the Oregon Trail and Pioneers, and there's just, I could go on forever with this list of books. I don't know, this might have to come down some, but there's just so much to study there. And then we're going to talk about the Trail of Tears. And then we have early to mid 1800s, which is the underground. This is where we're going to focus on the Underground Railroad and people like Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington and that whole movement there. And then we've got the Civil War, which Abraham Lincoln, Clara Barton, someone that Samuel's familiar with, so we're going to put her in there. And then Buffalo Bill and the Pony Express. And then we're going to talk about the early 1900s and touch on the inventions and the Industrial Revolution there. And I'm putting Theodore Roosevelt in here. Again, that's someone that Samuel is familiar with, and so someone he's very interested in. So I put him in as well. And then George Washington Carver is another person. And then World War I, the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. FDR, I'm putting this in because he is obsessed with learning about Eleanor Roosevelt, so that's in there too. And World War II, and then the Civil Rights Movement. So that is pretty much it. That's what I have. One thing I forgot to mention is that this unit is probably going to take about 2 years, give or take a little, to get through. That's what I'm expecting, looking at all of it and what all's there. And if we need to rush through it quickly, that's fine. If we need to slow it down, that's fine too. But I'm expecting it'll be about 2 years worth of stuff. I'd love you guys' feedback or ideas or anything, but that is how I am putting together our history unit. I hope you guys have a great week. I'll talk to you later. Bye.